So I join in humbly to offer my strongest possible support for the directions and intention of Baroness Burt's bill, which is very much in line with the policy of the Green Party of England and Wales. Our policies for a sustainable society, democratically agreed by members at conference, says on conversion therapy, the Green Party recognises that these practices are unethical and harmful and believes that such practices should be illegal. The policy goes on to acknowledge the particular harm that practices represent to young people and vulnerable adults, something reflected in the fact that our young Greens have been particularly strong in campaigning for the government to live up to the government's LGBT action plan of 2018. One of the key actions listed in that plan was to bring forward proposals to end the practice of conversion therapy in the UK. That plan went on to say, and I quote, "Our intention is to protect people who are vulnerable to harm or violence, whether that occurs in a medical, commercial or faith-based context. We are not trying to prevent LGBT people from seeking legitimate medical support or spiritual support from their faith leader in exploration of their sexual orientation or gender identity." Close quote. That is, I believe, what everyone who's speaking in support of this bill today, its direction, is seeking to work towards. Now, I feel one of the most useful contributions I can bring to this debate is to reflect on what's happening in Scotland, where, of course, the Scottish Green Party, working with the SNP under the Butte House Agreement, has been at the forefront of working towards a conversion therapy ban. The history of that is careful, consultative, evidence-based work. In 2020, a campaign group, End Conversion Therapy Scotland, lodged a petition with the Scottish Parliament. The Petitions Committee considered the issue worthy of further consideration and passed it on to the Equalities Committee. The following year, the Equalities Committee began an inquiry into conversion therapy. Their final report recommended a criminal ban. Again, the following year, 2022, the Scottish Government created an expert advisory group on ending conversion practices. That included legal scholars, human rights experts, LGBTQ+ advocacy groups, faith leaders, medical professionals and survivors of conversion therapy. The final report of that expert advisory group unanimously recommended a comprehensive ban and a suite of measures regarding communication, engagement, prevention and, I think something we haven't really talked about today, support for survivors, which is really something that's urgently needed. So this year, the Scottish Government has launched a detailed consultation on proposals to ban conversion therapy. That consultation runs until the 2nd of April. I cannot but note that had the Westminster Government followed a similar path from 2018, we could today be debating a government bill and saving the noble lady, Baroness Burt, a great deal of work and her team. Now, I think I want to pick up a point made by the noble lady, Baroness Chakrabarty, that conversion therapy is about the abuse, the misuse of power. It's nearly always conducted by someone in a position of authority, power, or respect over the victim. It also often relies on secrecy, control and shame, and so it's hard for victims and survivors to come forward and to seek help. It's therefore useful to consider conversion therapy to be a similar experience to domestic abuse in the form of coercive control. Saying that, it's clear then that many of the actions we're talking about might well be covered by other legislation, but as a specific pattern of behaviour and action, some elements would not be, and this is clearly what the legislation we're talking about today seeks to address, as does the planned Scottish legislation. And it is worth looking at this in the international context, that conversion therapy is widely considered to be a form of torture in certain forms, this being a view taken by the UN Committee Against Torture and the International Council, a Rehabilitation Council for Torture Victims. Failure to protect people for conversion therapy leaves LGBTQ+ people at risk of having their convention rights breached. Now, I conclude by noting that many faith groups responded to the Holyrood Equalities Committee inquiry, and all were supportive of a ban. Scotland's largest faith organisation, the Churches of Scotland, has stated their view that conversion therapy is wrong and should be banned.